Hi, everyone. Um, so it's been a few minutes since our start time, so I'm gonna get this started. Uh, if anyone is having any problems hearing me, please let me know. So welcome to our 2020 Digital Trends webinar. We're gonna cover a bunch of interesting insights that we found as part of our 2020 Digital Trends report. So let's get this started. First of all, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Liron. I'm the content marketing lead at SimilarWeb. I produce a lot of our content and oversee all of it. Specifically, today we're going to be talking about the 2020 Digital Trends Report, which is what I mostly worked on with some help from our industry consultants, one of which is Jamie. Jamie, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Liron. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name's Jamie Drayton. I'm our lead industry consultant for financial services and retail. So we'll be talking about some great Prime Day insights today, as well as what Amazon and other retailers look like. So looking forward to hopefully answering a lot of questions you have, and feel free to follow up afterwards.
For sure, and I'll take this opportunity to say that if you do have any questions, feel free to ask them using our Q&A section, and we'll answer questions at the end. So jumping right into this, I'll sort of give you a brief of what you're going to learn today. Today we're going to cover some of the biggest trends that we've seen in our last major report, the 2020 Digital Trends. You'll receive a link to it if you haven't seen it already at the end of this presentation. So what you'll learn this webinar, you'll learn about some of the most important things that happened online in 2019 and how we think that'll affect your 2020. We're going to talk a lot about retail, and obviously Amazon is a huge part of that. We're going to talk about their not so new shopping holiday, but how they're affecting the space and using their Prime Day to impact the entire market. And we're going to talk a bit about how Amazon, which categories Amazon's been betting on and where it succeeded, and also where it didn't succeed, because there is actually a bit where it didn't succeed. So first of all, before we get into any of this, let's talk about us. You guys, I hope most of you know who SimilarWeb is, but a brief sort of bit about us. SimilarWeb is the measure of the digital world. We are providing decision makers with data that gives them visibility of everything that's happening online. Companies across every category, every sector are using SimilarWeb insights to find untapped opportunities and grow their business. Our data is comprehensive. We have insights on data and insights on 80 million websites, 3 million apps across 190 countries, 250 categories. We're tracking, millions and millions of keywords and ad creatives. So if you need insights on the digital world, SimilarWeb is where you should go. So our solutions, a bit about our solutions. We're currently offering 4 solutions based on the type of business based on the type of business and questions you're looking to answer. So the marketing solution is going to uncover growth opportunities across marketing channels and help with user acquisition. Research, Jamie, do you maybe want to say a bit about the research solution?
Sure. So that would be a lot of our recommendations about what affiliates are working in the marketplace. What are some of those SEO, SEM content opportunities?
And then we have 2 additional solutions. There are the sales and investor solutions. Sales solution is helping companies grow their pipelines, perfect their pitch, and win more deals. And investors gives visibility for investor clients into KPIs, analyzing trends, and how to invest without blind spots. So these are some of our customers, if you're interested to know. And without further ado, let's jump into our webinar. So first of all, I want to cover some of the key digital trends we've seen around the world. So this first section is going to be focusing on sort of overarching trends based on global data. So first of all, so I'm going to sort of go through all the major findings, and then I'll go into a bit more specifics later on. So first of all, traffic, we saw increasing across the board on every category, almost every category, but global traffic has increased, and it's fueled mostly by mobile. Within categories, we're seeing traffic consolidate into the bigger players. So we're setting more higher entries, higher barriers for new entrants. Brand and brand recognition definitely drives growth for most websites, but paid traffic is actually converting better on retailers and travel sites. Google Travel has been taking a stab at meta search and doing quite well at it. They've been hurting meta search engines, but they're strengthening travel suppliers, specifically in hotels. And in travel, we're also seeing a lot of interest in the experience and not just how to get there. In news, we're seeing content become more politically charged and contrasted. We're seeing people go into more left and right-leaning sites and less towards the center. And finance, Jamie, do you have that you can tell us about what we saw in finance? Just one liner.
Yeah, I think we see a shift down in desktop traffic as people shift more to apps, and a big consolidation of the affiliate space. So the big acquisition by Intuit of Credit Karma, right, really just shows the value of actually creating content in the financial services sector.
And then finally, we did have a lot of insights about social media and how social giants are battling it out. And video is definitely proving to be king on that. So these are some of the core trends we saw in our insights report, which you can check out later on. These are a few global trends about traffic and digital performance. So first of all, web traffic is definitely on the rise. We're seeing total traffic to the top 100 sites. For just setting the stage for all of this, we looked into the top 100 sites in the world and looked at their average monthly traffic. And the biggest thing that stood out was really this dramatic growth. So we had 8% growth over 2018 and 11.8% more than in 2017. That's 223 billion visits each month to the top 100 sites. That's huge, in my opinion. We also saw April and June had the most dramatic growth, but we were specifically able to isolate a specific incident that led to that. And we'll show later a bit more about what contributed to these numbers. So another thing that we saw, we wanted to isolate and understand where this growth was coming from. And one of the most significant things that we found was that mobile web is growing phenomenally. So desktop traffic has been stable over the past 3 years, even slightly decreasing. The decrease is about 3% since 2017. But on the other hand, mobile web traffic has increased 30.6% since 2017. That's a giant increase in I think by all standards. And if we're looking sort of ahead and trying to hypothesize what we think will happen in 2020, we tend to believe, yeah, we're going to continue seeing mobile web growth, and mobile web is going to be a huge part of how we interact with brands. And this means, obviously, for retailers, we definitely need to make sure that our mobile experience is at the top of its game. Every site should be super mobile friendly, because people are not turning to desktop anymore to continue their process in engaging with your brand. Next sort of big trend that we saw was mobile share of traffic, and somehow my title got lost here. But this graph shows how mobile web is affecting every single category, and what we're seeing is mobile growth was most prominent, obviously, in our vices. So, you know, when people go see adult content, or they're going to dating sites and gambling, they're going to turn to their mobile device. Not, you know, we were expecting to see that. But what we were actually surprised to see was food and drink sites were increasing on mobile as well, and that's obvious. That's going to be stemming from searches like restaurants near me and things that are more location based. Health content, sports, people are checking scores on the fly wherever they are, and news. People want to keep up to date, and they're up to date on their phone much more than they are anywhere else. So these are the categories with the most significant mobile web traffic. One thing that to me wasn't that surprising, but I think it is important to mention, we found that desktop share was the highest in what we call our arts and entertainment category. But what you should remember, this is just streaming sites, so mostly YouTube and Netflix are significantly impacting this space, and people still opt for the desktop device when watching videos. Excuse me. One more thing that's happening as a result of this mobile web takeover is that people's attention spans are getting shorter. So visit durations are getting shorter on both desktop and mobile. Obviously on mobile more than on desktop. Desktop is still where you go to spend more time on a site, get more invested in a site, read a piece of content that's a bit longer. But mobile web mobile web visit durations are short and getting shorter, as we can see over time. And with these decreases on both devices, what we're seeing is that overall traffic, users are spending less and less time on sites. So that led to an overall decrease of 49 seconds in an average page view on the top 100 websites in the world. That means that, as marketers, we need to make sure that we're getting to the point as fast as possible. We're not wasting any more time because no one has the time to waste. And I have a question on what is the y-axis on? If we're asking about this specific graph, so the y-axis is visit durations. Okay, in seconds, by the way. And one more thing is, as expected, we found that the big sites are getting bigger and dramatically so. The top 10 sites in the world saw a 10.7% increase in monthly traffic compared to 2018. But the remaining 90 sites only gained 2.3%. So that's a huge dramatic shift. Within the top 10, two sites that did see a pretty significant decrease in traffic are Facebook. And we expected to see this. Facebook, as we know, has been having a very rough year. And that shows in its traffic. They lost 8.6% of their traffic. Yahoo, on the other hand, also lost 33.6%. So that's a dramatic drop for them. One of the things that you can't avoid seeing on this graph is Google's dramatic growth. And this is kind of a misleading figure, and I want to go a bit into that. Something that we've seen Google do in the last couple of years is that they're moving their country-specific domains, so their .couk, .fr, .de, they're moving traffic from those country-specific domains into google.com. And so that means that google.com domain is going to be growing, and every specific country domain is going to be decreasing. And since we're talking about the top 100 sites, it doesn't necessarily include all the smaller Google domains around the world. And so once everything's consolidated into google.com, we're seeing growth for Google as a whole. So that sort of covers the big trends of what we saw in 2019. The next section, we're going to talk about how Amazon is reshaping the shopping holiday. And I'm going to let Jamie sort of take the lead on this. So Jamie, here's to you. Jamie?
Thank you. I was on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. So thank you. The first thing I call out here, right, we're looking at traffic to the top 100 shopping sites. And what immediately stands out is the peaks that happen during the traditional holiday season. So right before January, right, what's going on in Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all of those days, those are the peaks that you're seeing year over year. What is a little bit more nuanced, Liron, if you could flip through for the builds, is this peak that we're now seeing across these 100 shopping sites year over year, right? And this is typically before Amazon started Prime Day. It was traditionally a time of the year that was very, very, very difficult for a lot of retailers, right? It's the opposite point of that holiday season, about 5 or 6 months away. But what Amazon has done through creating Prime Day is not just boost traffic to their own site, but now created momentum around this day across retailers. So we see across all these 100 shopping sites, it's now become this day that every retailer has to play in because this new shopping habit is formed for consumers. And I think what's very clear about that growth is how much it's managed to change year over year. So when we were having this conversation a year prior for the holiday season, we were seeing very, very impressive growth between 2017 and 2018. Last year was this idea of, oh, it's surprising to see that even though the holiday season is obviously so big already, it managed to grow year over year. Between 2018 and 2019, this wasn't the case. So growth has actually leveled out. Traffic to those top 100 sites was flat year over year between 2018 and 2019. But this isn't the same trend that we're seeing for Prime Day. So that week of Prime Day, it's still increasing year over year. And I think that the trend that we're seeing, right, especially with more retailers starting to play, which Liron will walk through in a minute, is that this is only going to become a bigger and bigger bigger and bigger day year over year.
Yeah. One sec. Why is it not clicking? Okay. So as Jamie said, we're going to see this this grow year over year. And one of the things that I wanted to see was how are different players playing in this space. So Amazon, we're going to, as we expected to see, Amazon seeing incremental growth on Prime Day, increasing by, we're coming up close to, what is that, 18? I wrote this down, 13%. Over its average daily traffic in July. But what's more interesting is that some players, your Walmarts, your Best Buys, your Costco's, they didn't play this game in the first 2 years of what we're looking at. So they actually saw traffic. For Walmart, it was stagnant. For Best Buy and Costco, they saw significant decreases on Prime Week. We're talking about the 7 days surrounding Prime Day. So they saw significant decreases during Prime Week. And this year, as we can see, they sort of joined the party and they saw this dramatic increase in their average daily traffic during Prime Week, which shows how this holiday has been, has impacted retail dramatically over the years. And your other players like Target, Chewy, and Bed Bath & Beyond, they've been participating in this holiday since at least since 2017 is what we're seeing. And we're seeing this incremental growth that Amazon was seeing. We're also seeing it for Target, for Chewy, for Bed Bath & Beyond. They're growing dramatically year over year and improving with every sequential year that they're participating in the holiday. Another example is one other retailer that's taking full advantage of Prime Day, which is Kohl's.com. Kohl's.com has been, in the last 2 years, not only participating in Prime Day, it's actually partnered with Amazon. It's providing pickup services and return services, and that's where they're seeing this huge monumental growth during Prime Week, and they're using that. Obviously, this partnership is helping them, and we can see how it's contributing to their traffic growth year over year. That's about how Prime Day has impacted the shopping holiday. Our next section, we'll talk about Amazon's big bets and what they've been doing just generally in the last year. So I think one of the first things, we've been talking so much about Amazon, and we know that it's a big deal and it was huge, but I was astonished to find just how big it is. Amazon is not only the biggest shopping player by far, as we can see here, we're looking at monthly traffic to the shopping sites. And we're also seeing that it has seen some of the most dramatic growth. Its site traffic increased 7.4% this year. And when you're talking about a player as big as Amazon, that's huge. And in terms of relative growth, only one other player, two other players actually surpassed it, and that's Etsy with 17% year-over-year growth in traffic, and Kohl's with 8.7% year-over-year gains. But in terms of absolute volume of traffic, we can't even, no one can really compare in terms of volume growth. But what's more interesting is, besides traffic to the site, people, as we've said, are switching to mobile devices. What's going on in the app space? And what's even more crazy than its growth in traffic is its growth in app usage. We're seeing installations and usage nearly double this year. No other shopping app has reached these types of growth figures. So, like it or not, we're seeing Amazon continue growing, and we have to learn how to play in this new space where Amazon is leading and growing much more than any other player. one of the things that we wanted to look at was which categories is Amazon investing in, and where is it seeing growth, and where is it not seeing as much growth. So one of the things that we looked at was different categories, and what we can see here clearly is its top growing category is clothing. This is in terms of absolute volume of growth. Clothing is growing the most dramatically. It's focused on apparel. It has its own line of clothing, if I remember correctly. It's also focused on health and household and groceries. Those are the categories with the most dramatic growth. Groceries grew 10% this year, and we can assume that that has to do with a lot of its new services, including its acquisition of Whole Foods, but not just. And these are the most growing categories. This is in terms of traffic into the category. What's most interesting is the fact that Amazon has this, it's the one-stop shop. So I'm in there to buy my groceries. I might as well look at a toy for my kid or buy some personal care item and add that to my cart as well. So that means that even those categories that didn't see traffic increase that much, or maybe saw even some decreases in traffic, like appliances, they're seeing increase in actual volume of conversions. So if one category is doing well, other categories are going to be doing well as well. Groceries, total volume of conversions grew almost 50% this year. That's dramatic. And not only that, we can see their focus on health and households was very, very prominent this year. They actually managed to grow that in terms of volume of conversions to the second largest category behind electronics. And even appliances, where we think who's going to buy a washing machine on Amazon, that's still growing as well, even though it's their smallest category, still happening. People are switching to buying appliances at Amazon as well. And the next couple of slides are going to be our stories about where Amazon bet and succeeded, and the next one is going to be where Amazon bet and didn't really succeed, and why. So the next, we're looking here at the furniture category. So if everyone, at least in the States, knows Wayfair.com as the giant of furniture. It's the furniture site with the most amount of traffic. Overall, it's also seeing some dramatic growth, 22% in 2019. That's huge. But Amazon's furniture category is much smaller, about about a third of their traffic, excuse me, a third of Wayfair's traffic, but they're also growing. They're growing at 10%, not as much as Wayfair by far. And we don't expect them to succeed with these types of figures. However, what we are seeing is that Amazon is hugely successful at driving people lower down the funnel. So Wayfair was leading in total conversions for a pretty long while, but what we're seeing is Amazon has doubled down on furniture in the last year. They have managed to increase a very high conversion rate of 4.5% in furniture to 7.5% in December 2019. So with lower traffic figures, they're actually reaching more purchases than Wayfair.com. So Wayfair did see great growth this year. They saw 28% growth. That's huge in terms of volume of conversions, but Amazon just beat them to it. So that's how Amazon is sort of focuses on a category and then focuses not on just driving traffic, but also pushing people down the funnel in actual purchases. The last story I'm gonna cover is Amazon's attempt at a fan shop. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Fanatics. They're sort of the go-to store for buying fan gear for all you sports fans. And Amazon is competing with Fanatics on their fan shop category. What we're seeing is, Fanatics is huge. They're seeing about 200 million monthly visits, but they're seeing very, not very dramatic growth. But what we are seeing is that Amazon's fan shop is losing dramatic volumes of traffic, actually 17%. And that decrease, we're sort of looking at how Fanatics has been able to win their space. It's because they're partnering with leagues, teams, and players. They're giving users a unique experience. So Fanatics sort of goes the boutique route, where Amazon is Amazon. They're huge. They can't really take the boutique route here. So they're dubbing it v-commerce. So it's a combination of their manufacturing, logistics, and technological capabilities. They manage intellectual property for players, player content, and that allows them to compete against Amazon and win. Amazon can't create this unique experience. And what does this mean for other retailers who want to play against Amazon? And I'm sure that you guys can all think about what this means for your business. But each business that seeks to compete against Amazon isn't going to win unless they offer something unique. So whether it be unique partnerships with leagues in the case of Fan Shop, or if it's a unique experience in terms of personalizing content or customized products. So that's sort of where a brand that's seeking to compete with Amazon is working in the same category as Amazon can really achieve growth despite Amazon's size. That's pretty much all we have for today. I'm sort of going to summarize what we found. So the key digital trends was that mobile comes first almost always. It is the driver of growth. It is what gets people onto a site, and that means that we need to double down on where our weak spots are in mobile, and that's keeping people's attentions on the site. Attention spans are shortening, and companies need to focus on getting people engaged from the first second. The big are continuing to get bigger. Some are not, but most of the big are continuing to get bigger. So competition for smaller players is stiff, and that leads to the point about finding your niche, finding your unique factor in the space for retail. Another thing we found for Prime Day is primed to be the next big shopping holiday. It's growing far faster currently than Black Friday, and sites during Prime Day saw incremental growth where ones that did not were seeing declines in traffic. So that really means that you need to look at how you're approaching Prime Day. And then Amazon is king across most categories, but has its weak spots, and we need to find where those weak spots are in order to grow and succeed in competing against Amazon. So that's all I have for you guys today. I wonder if there are any questions. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to ask any questions. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that that I saw that I thought, one second. Yes, the question about slides, I will be sharing the slides. I wanted to share a few comments. So I had a question about Nordstrom during Prime Day. One of the slides that we showed, and I can go back to it. Nordstrom had, sorry, one second. So Prime Day, we saw Nordstrom had some very dramatic growth during the last 2 years. And one of the things that I automatically asked myself when I saw this was, wait, but they're not participating in Prime Day. How are they seeing such growth? So one of the things that we found was actually that they have their annual sale in the first weeks of July. And in 2017, that meant that in 2017, that happened a week before Prime Day. So their Prime Week traffic was much lower than the rest of the month, where the following years it actually coincided with Prime Week, and that's why we saw such dramatic growth during the event. But it's not actually because of Prime Day. It's something that they've been doing for years. Okay, so I had this question about coronavirus. Are we already seeing any impacts because of coronavirus? So this report covered 2019, so obviously coronavirus wasn't an issue in 2019. It started in January this year. So it's obviously going to affect all of our projections and what we thought we would see. we do have some insights on coronavirus on our blog. We just released a blog post today with trends about what's going on with coronavirus, and excuse me. And we also have a white paper out, so look into that. I'll sort of give you a sneak, like a description of what we found. So we found that there were some categories that saw traffic growth. That would be like meetings, like Zoom, for example, but any other sort of hangout type services saw some growth. And also grocery delivery services saw growth, but travel is dramatically down. And I strongly suggest looking at the blog post that we just published today and downloading the white paper. There's a lot of interesting insights about coronavirus, and we promise to keep updating. We also have a webinar that we're going to send an invite to next week.
Yeah, just adding on to that, we also looked into there was interest in what's the search volume like around some of these key things that people are searching for now that the coronavirus has become such a global issue, like hand sanitizer and face masks. And we saw a huge upsurge in traffic. No surprise there, right? But I think it was about a 10x jump in traffic around searches for these products like N95 masks and face masks.
I have this question about education and where we could see some growth. I need a bit of elaboration. What do you mean by education? While we're waiting for that, can you elaborate on other trends that we've seen? So I'll just briefly give a few highlights from our 2020 report. It's 40 pages long, so I'm not going to obviously go into too much detail, but we did cover trends in travel, with Google taking a major stance in travel, hurting meta searches, and directing a lot of traffic into suppliers, specifically in hotels. Google had a huge focus on hotels. In publications, we saw overall traffic decrease, but specific publications aimed at niche categories did see increases. And general news was polarized, as that's something that we mentioned earlier. And in finance, we saw how fintech disruptors, so all the app-based services, are changing up the industry. Jamie, if you want to say a few words on that.
Yeah, on how apps have impacted the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we've across a lot of the big shopping apps, right? We've seen a big upsurge. That's where that desktop traffic is going when we see declines. It's really people spending more time in these app environments because that's the easiest way, right, from that mobile device.
Yeah. So this question about education, I actually did not cover education sites in my report, but I'm happy to take this offline if you want to shoot me an email, and I will happily, post some numbers for you if you want, and continue the conversation. So I'll send you an email. I'll send you my email, and I will also email you as well. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone else? Give you guys a couple of seconds. Okay, so there's no more questions. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending your time with us. And we hope to see you guys in another webinar.
Thank you.